We just going into it?
We're just doing it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Snapcast podcast. What is this? Day, like, 20 some odd of quarantine. Here we are, still going crazy in the house. Breaking the rules of social distancing just for you guys. But, yeah, we got an interesting show here today. As you guys know, some spoilers continue to come out. We both are very opinionated people, so we got some shit to say about it. So,
some more than others.
Yeah. How are you guys doing? You guys holding up with the old quarantine, with the old social distancing? Are you driving yourselves crazy yet?
Dude, I am getting to the point now where I'm starting to get a little edgy. I'm starting to get, like, you know, something sticks to the bottom of a pan and I'm ready to smash walls out. And that's not a good place to be in the best of times, but when you literally can't get out of your house. I mean, I went for a walk today, but I'm feeling some kind of way about all this, and I'm looking forward to it being over. Yeah,
I had to take a moment just on the way coming here and picking up my Arizona. You know, you talked about, I had to take a step back. I had to be like, okay, this is not personal. Don't take this personal. You know what I mean? Literally, this is what happened. I'm standing in line. There's somebody in front of me in this gas station that I go to. And the clerk, like, looks around and she goes, "Excuse me, sir. Can you step back to the blue box?" And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, you fucking talking to me? Like, you know what I mean? It was like, I made her sound too nice there. Like, the tone was, was
not that nice.
Was not that nice. So I'm like looking around. I'm like, so I looked at her. Like, I have that way, that look I give people sometimes. Like, you fucking talking to me? Like,
are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm just like looking all around, moving my head. So I look back and I'm looking on the floor for like this blue box, and I find it and I just take a step back. Figuratively and literally, right? I took a step back. I was like, that wasn't personal. Like, as shitty as that sounds, she's probably had to say that to so many people. Like, you're probably just another dude over here that didn't observe these crazy blue boxes on the floor because you've never had to in your life when you go into a convenience store. You know what I mean? And she's probably just sick of saying it to people. You know what I mean? So I took a step back figuratively and mentally, and I was just like, it's not personal, man. Like, don't take it personal. I feel like I'm apt to do that as well, much like you had talked about. But then as soon as the other customer was gone, she's just like, "Hey, honey, can I help you?" Just like, yeah, that's what it was. Like, just clearly some crazy times we're living in, man.
It really is. And I you know what? That's a great life lesson in general, that so often we see something and get, you know, we react to how somebody else presents information to us, and not realizing that they're a whole nother person dealing with their whole other own stuff. That what we take from their tone of voice or whatever, we don't know what their day was like. We don't know if they, you know, lost a family member. We don't know if, you know, they've just got a piece of glass in their foot. They could just be an asshole.
Yeah, that's true.
But whether or not they're an asshole, all we can do is respond. Like, you can choose to be an asshole back, and then you're both assholes. Or you can say, you know what? You're either an asshole or you're having a shitty day. Either way, I'm not going to magnify it.
Yeah.
By participating in it.
I say that, but I also probably took part in magnifying that earlier today. So I kind of needed that step back. Here was another thing. We finally ventured out to a fast food restaurant for the first time since the apocalypse, right? And we went to McDonald's, of all places, and the drive-thru is like mobbed right up. So we get to the person taking your order over the intercom, and I was just like, "Yep, I'd like some double cheeseburgers, 4 double cheeseburgers, all right." And then she's like, "Oh, is that out? Is that it?" And then Nikki like pipes up from the seat right next to me, and she's like, she says her order. She's just like, "Can I get a bacon cheeseburger or whatnot?" Instantly, like this girl interrupts her and she's like, we don't have bacon after 10 a.m. And I was just like, wow, holy shit. Like, this girl is on edge. So, like, right away, you know what I mean? I'm just like, you could have put that a little nicer is kind of what I'm thinking. And then she's just like, so Nikki just doesn't miss a beat. She's just like, yeah, okay, like, I'll just have a regular cheeseburger and a small fry. And then she's like, what was that? She's like, a small French fry. She's like, a small fry? Or no, it was the other way around. She goes, Nikki goes, a small fry? And she goes, a small French fry?
No, so, bitch, the other kind of fry.
That's exactly what I said. Like, at that point, I'd already heard enough. Like, so Nikki goes, a small fry. And she's like, a small French fry? So I go, nah, she wants the English ones if you guys still have them.
Can we have some of them freedom fries? Do you still have those left over from the Bush era?
Nikki, she's so polite, though. She gets all mad. She's like, why do you have to be such an asshole? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like...
Sometimes a man can only take so much.
That's right. It's like he was talking to my bae. Well, she was talking to my bae. And she wasn't being very nice about it.
Well, and, hopefully that at the end of the day, she won't take you personally either because you've been cooped up and dealing with stuff, too.
Yeah.
But we are not a... psych profile podcast.
I mean,
if you would like to perform a psychological profile on the two of us, I apologize. But we're a Magic the Gathering podcast.
You don't say, man.
Not often. There are some cool ass cards in this set.
Yeah.
What has stood out to you? What's one card that you're like excited about so far?
So I'll tell you the thing that I'm most excited about, and this is going to be, you guys are going to hear this and be like, yeah, you're dumb. The Mythos arts.
You like the arts?
So cool looking.
I wonder if they'll be playmats.
Oh, man, they've got to be. Look at these things. Guys, go check this out. Go look at mythicspoiler.com and go look at all of the Mythos of cards. So, like, there's a white one that's like Mythos of Snapdax. They really missed a big opportunity. It could have been Mythos of Snapcast. They could have really called us out right there. But, so they got that one. And then Mythos of Nethroi, Mythos of Vadrock, of Brachos. There's just a ton of them. The cards may or may not be that great. I think the Snapdax is actually a sweet one. But,
well, and one of the things that I might want to talk about is that theory that we had a few weeks ago about white maybe getting more love. I think we're starting to see it in this set.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Also, one of the things that we're noticing right now is the blue Mythos is not spoiled yet.
That's a good observation, man. I didn't even notice that. I'm just lost in the artwork.
Yeah, I love this Paleolithic, like, cave painting style thing.
Yeah, like the Snapdax one. It looks like it's just like you. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. A cave painting. Like, these all look like cave paintings. Yeah. And they're so dope.
Let's see. So, Mythos of Snapdax. 2 white, sorcery. Now, they're not all sorceries. Just this one is a sorcery. If a player chooses an artifact, each player chooses an artifact, creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among non-land permanents they control, and then sacrifices the rest. But if black-red were paid in casting this spell, choose the permanents for that player or each player instead. So if you pay Swamp, Mountain, Plains, you get to pick what people keep, and they sack the rest. Pretty potent.
It's a cataclysm on crack. It even has a cat in that cave painting.
The black one, 2 and a black instant, Mythos of Nethroi. I don't think there's any argument that this is the one that will likely see the most play.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's 3 mana. So, Mythos of Nethroi, black, 3 mana instant. Destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature, or if green-white was spent to cast this spell.
So, minimum, it's a 3 mana instant speed.
Vindicate, basically.
Well,
can't get a land, but...
Right. So, if you just paid 2 and a black, it's a Murderous Cut or Doomblade, sorry. Mm-hmm. So, it's basically Doomblade. But if you pay Abzan, it's Vindicate.
Wow, that's cool. Vindicate, but it can't get a land.
Can't get a land.
Yep.
So it's sort of like a what's the green black one? Assassin's Trophy now, but they get a land. This is 3 mana, but there's no land. I don't know. Certainly we'll see play if there's any kind of Abzan deck in Standard.
Oh yeah.
Which it looks like there's a lot of multicolored spells going on here.
Yeah,
so.
there's some really cool stuff, man. So first of all, with all of these spoilers, right? Not just Ikoria, but the new commander sets and everything as well.
Oof.
Dude,
Oof.
Both of these put together, right? You can't tell me that cats aren't on their mind.
Oh, I was wondering if this was going to come up today.
Yeah.
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 No,
oh, man.
So right now we're looking at just all the newest spoilers for Ikoria. But if we go to look at the newest spoilers period,
mm-hmm.
we can scroll back a little bit and Commander. Some of these commander cards, and obviously there's tons of cats in Ikoria, but there are also a fair number of cats in these.
Yeah.
Herald of the Forgotten. There's another flying cat that grows for every flyer that you have.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's in the new Ikoria set. So
that's not even in the commander set.
No, there's not even. So in both of these, not only do they have cool cats in these commander sets, but Ikoria has ridiculous amounts of cats in it. Even a new companion cat. Have you seen this? There's a companion cat. So
I got a companion cat. My brother gave it to me. It's deaf.
It's cute as hell, though, man. We ought to have Mr. Companion Cat come on the podcast here eventually.
We'll probably get better ratings. So
Nikki might watch a full episode.
Only if the cat was in it for the full episode. All right, so what's our companion cat?
Dude, so companion cat, I forget. I don't know exactly where it is on this page, but
what color is it?
Green, white. So
let's go down to multicolored.
Yep. So I'll preface this by saying this, okay? Like, my girlfriend didn't play Magic the Gathering before we got together. But now, ever since I built her a cat deck in Commander, she has played Magic the Gathering and seems to have enjoyed it every once in a while.
And she's played it mostly with you, so if she's enjoying herself, that's really saying something.
It's pretty solid, man. Like, I'm pumped, you know? But here's the thing. I never knew cats were so competitive. Like, you guys might not have heard of Arahbo, Roar of the World, but he is a nasty commander. Okay, like he was printed in one of those commander sets from years past here, and he led the cat deck. He was a 5-drop 5/5, so he's his mana cost is cool. He's instantly passes the vanilla test. But here's his ability, right? And this is what makes these Arahbo decks so competitive. So he has the Eminence ability, which is at the beginning of combat on your turn, if Arahbo is in the command zone or on the battlefield, right? So in the command zone, meaning you haven't even cast him. This is turn 1. He's in the command zone. Another target cat you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So every turn, a cat gets giant growthed. So you can see how vicious this could be. Like in multiplayer Commander, it can get pretty out of control if you let like the cat player just sit there, build a board, and suddenly you have your adorned pouncer on the board that's getting +3/+3, but has, double strike and something else that's pumping him. And then before you know it, you berserk him and then someone's dead in one turn. Like, it's ridiculous. Even this card or our deck archetype is even more competitive in Dual Commander. I'm not sure how many people play that watch this podcast, but it's basically one-on-one Commander. There's a different rule set. There's a different ban list for Dual Commander. I prefer Dual Commander. I love Dual Commander. And that's how I built her Arahbo deck, was for Dual Commander. It is now by far single-handedly the deck to beat of any Dual Commander deck that I ever build. Can it beat cats? It's sort of like the bar we were talking about with Burn in Modern. with any dual commander deck around, it's like, can it beat Cats? Because Cats is really consistent, and it's really vicious, and it will kill you very quickly if you don't handle it. Like, I mean, in dual commander, you got to remember, you start at 20 life. So they just fill their decks with turn 1 idiots. Like, literally turn 1 idiot. Turn 1, a 1/1 cat for 1. And the next turn, it's swinging in for 4. And then the next turn, it's swinging in for 4 again. And this is only with 1 card for 1 mana. They just have a 4/4. They're just going to keep hitting you with it.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing
Like,
a 4/4 on, so if you play, what's Savannah Lions? Is that the famous 2/1 for 1?
2/1 for 1. It's
So
a cat.
you're swinging for 5 on turn 2.
Exactly. And so you have 4 turns. I've played 1 land and 1 card, and you have 4 turns. Oh, man. I still have 6 other cards in my hand. Like, you know what I mean? I have tons of stuff I can do, but you have to handle this 5/4 every turn from the very get-go.
So what's the cat in Ikoria that's got you
so this
feline a certain way?
I appreciate you looking this up while I'm
Get it? Feline a certain way?
Your puns, man. You're such a punny guy. Such a punny guy. But yeah, what's got me feline some type of way is this new companion cat that fits right into Arahbo. Okay, he's green-white, and his name is Kahira the Orphan Guard. Right, so 3 mana, so 2 hybrid green-white and a colorless. 3-drop cat beast, and here's his companion ability, which, if you haven't caught on, is pretty easy to work into Arahbo. It just says, companion, each creature card in your starting deck, each creature card is a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast card.
So, cat tribal, you're good.
Exactly. Cat tribal, no problem. The only thing is, let me finish what he does first. So he's a 3/2 for 3, and he has vigilance. Each other creature you control that's a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast gets +1/+1 and vigilance. And vigilance, dude.
And vigilance.
This card is so good. Like, and can you just imagine in the Arahbo deck? I can't stress this enough. I always tell Nikki this when she's playing. I'm like, literally mulligan until you get an idiot. Like, mulligan until you get an idiot and make your opponent solve it. You know what I mean? This is now a bomb card that you just always have in your hand with Arahbo. Like, oh, you had to mulligan 2 or 3 times and you have, 2-3 lands and an idiot. That's great. You still have this good old cat companion right here that you can just cast on turn 3. No problem. Man. And he's a cat beast. He gets pumped by Arahbo. Like, so after he comes in, he's swinging for 6 the next turn. He's a 6/5. Bam. Crashing in.
Now I'm staring off into the void here because I seem to have seen a spell earlier that was something about tapping other creatures. That is not it. But that is another cat.
Yeah, like look at all of these cats that they have. Cub Warden. This guy's sweet. Whenever this creature mutates, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. So it's one of the mutate cards. It's a 4-drop 3/5 or mutates for 4, which is kind of high. Like if you've played against or if you've played with a high-level competitive Arahbo deck, 4 drops are not a thing. It's like, I'm just going to flood my hand with 1, 2, and maybe 3 drops. And if you can handle it, great. But if you can't, you're going to be dead very quickly.
3/5 lifelink that if you mutate it or mutate onto it makes 2 1 white cat creature tokens with a lifelink.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's Cub Warden. I'm not finding this card. Oh, and where?
So, by the way, the new mythos of snap decks definitely makes cats. Like it's got a cat in it, and it definitely makes cats. It makes Arahbo decks for sure.
But it has black-red in the text box.
Oh, even if it hasn't in the text, you can't use it. Yeah, God damn it. You're right.
Yeah, it has Mardu color identity.
I was confused. I knew that there was one way out of it. If I thought if it was rules text. If it's rules text, that's what it is. Whatever. I was thinking of extort. How you can have extort because it's in the text, but this is a little different. Never mind. Mythos of Snap decks does not make Arahbo. but it would be cool if it did.
Man, all right. I can't seem to find it, but there is a card in here that will let you gives other creatures one tap down an opponent's creature.
Oh yeah, it's really, really vicious. I'm glad you brought it up. It's probably one of the most broken cards, and it single-handedly made me revisit the exact conversation we had about Companion last week and be like, see, motherfuckers, like, you should have waited before you started banning shit. Like,
oh, so is it a companion?
Yeah, it's a companion card. So what you're talking about, I don't know the name of it, but it's a companion card, and it's hybrid white-red. 3 mana, 2 hybrid white-red, and 1 colorless. And it says, I forget what its companion is, but it's really simple to meet. It's all of your cards in your deck, all of your permanent cards have an activated ability. That's the companion criteria for it. I think it was just released today. So if you scroll like newest spoilers all the way up to the top, I think it was just released today. Keep scrolling down. Maybe yesterday. Who knows? Yeah, it's this one right here. Zerda, the Dawn Maker. So
that's not what I was thinking of, but
really,
let's go with it.
Okay. So 3 mana, 3/3, right? So it's instantly cool. So it's Boros colors. It's an elemental fox. So its companion is each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability. So it's kind of annoying, but it's not too annoying.
It's really not.
Like you can do it.
They've printed so many cards that are covered in text at this point that it's probably easy to do.
Oh, for sure, man. And this is what the card says, right? And this is why I say, like, before people started jumping on banning stuff that had companion, you probably ought to wait. This is what it says. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. And it sort of has the Heartstone ability where it says it can't reduce them to less than 1. Busted. So that's an infinite. It's a instant infinite mana combo with already big staples in Commander, such as Grim Monolith, the other monolith. What is it?
Basalt Monolith.
Basalt Monolith. Yep. Instantly infinite mana. You have one of those cards and you cast that guy. Infinite mana. Turn 4 always if you have those cards. So suddenly,
yes, but you have to play Boros in Commander.
I mean, I suppose, but you don't. This is a companion, so you could play all 5 colors and have this guy as your companion.
Just as the 9th card in your, the 9th card in your opening hand in Commander. Because if you look at your 7-card hand and think of your Commander as an 8th card, your companion is like a 9th card in your opening hand. So companion is busted in Commander.
Oh, for sure. It really is, man. Like, I don't know if it's busted, but it's something that, like, just adds a whole new dynamic of consistency to a very, what I would consider inconsistent format, by design, inconsistent format. Because if you think back to the reason why Commander was even played in the first place, it was played amongst judges. It was called Elder Dragon
Highlander.
And
because there can be only one.
Exactly. But it was literally created in spirit to sort of find out all of these weird friggin' things that can happen with cards that people never play. You know what I mean? And then these judges would sort of challenge themselves to figure out what happens in these weird scenarios, And it was also a cool pastime. Eventually it caught on. You guys know the rest. Here we are. Commander's the thing. So why are we now looking at this and being like, oh no, man, like these things that make it too complicated and consistent, like let's get rid of them. They're too busted.
Well, I think so. We're going back to our conversation from last week about Lutri, the spell copier.
Mm-hmm.
And I did listen to the guys over at the Command Zone today, is it Josh Lee Kwai, that's a member of the Commander's Advisory Group, was talking about the decision that they made to pre-ban that card, and how not only is it just going to be a staple in every deck, but it's because people will say, well, isn't Cryptic Command a staple, or isn't Soul Ring a staple? But the thing is those cards take up a spot in the deck. Companion cards don't. It's a 101st card, and it's always in your opening hand.
Mm-hmm.
So it is like saying you're starting the game with a 9-card hand by having this commander that will fork. And even if it's just forking something as simple as a wheel, that having access to that without having to use a card in your deck or use a tutor to find it, always having it, would probably lead to unfair gameplay or unfun gameplay.
I don't know, dude. So this is... our buddy Andy put it to me very clearly. It made me think. And, you know, he said basically that basically every deck that can run this will run this, because with that card in particular, there's no drawback. There's no specific deck restrictions in Commander. It just says all non-land cards in your deck have a different name. So any Commander deck that runs blue-red can run that. So therefore, any Commander deck that runs blue-red that doesn't have a companion instantly has that as a companion. So the card of it...
You wouldn't not.
Right. Like, I mean, hell, even if you don't run any instants and sorceries, you might as well have that guy in the companion
Flash
spot.
and a blocker.
Yeah, exactly. Flash and a blocker or something. So I guess it makes sense. And the way that he put it was, you know, the card would just get ridiculous because everybody would want that card. It's like a no-brainer, and the price of it would go up. And I stepped back for a minute, and I thought, I was like, that's kind of true. Like, that's kind of true. But it still just didn't sit right with me. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, there's just something about that argument that just, like, okay, so the secondary market should come into play when you're like thinking of these new awesome things to add to Magic. Like, okay, so the card goes up to $1,000 and nobody can afford it.
Well, like I said last week, hopefully with this ban, the price doesn't get crazy, and you go and get one, and then when you sit down at your table, rule 0 of Commander is there are no rules except for what the table agrees on.
Yeah.
So if you sit down at your table and be like, do you guys care if I play Lutri as my companion? And they say no, then you get to play with it.
I guess that's true. But yeah, I mean, this is how I see it. Like, Brad was kind enough to play this Command Zone podcast for me upon coming in, and I was really listening to it from, you know, remembering what Andy had said to me and kind of going into it with and trying to be unbiased, listening to their reasoning. And so the Command Zone, the people on the Command Zone podcast were talking about it like this. They were saying, you know, it's a whole new mechanic that we'd never seen before. And, you know, it adds all of this, you know, basically this craziness out of nowhere. You know what I mean? This unfair play out of nowhere. And, you know, that was basically their big argument, is that it throws a wrench in Commander in the way that it's set up out of nowhere. Like, there was no reason to do this, and suddenly there's this new spot that doesn't count as part of your main deck, and, you know, Lutri, of course, must be banned. So here's the problem. When I sat down and I listened to that argument, non-biased, and like tried to break it down and digest it, there was two things wrong with what they were saying.
Okay.
You couldn't tell at any given point if they were talking about the mechanic companion or if they were talking about Lutri. You know what I mean? They kind of bounced back and forth. Like, are you shocked by companion or are you just blown away by Lutri? So, it could be both, but you might want to be clear about that. Like, you know, if you don't like the concept of companion because it makes Commander unfair.
Well, the thing is, of all the companions, Lutri's deck building restriction is to play a singleton deck.
Right.
Which means that it has no restriction in EDH, Commander, 1v1,
right.
Whatever.
So that brings...
So companion, maybe, like if your deck building restriction is every deck in your card has to share a type, that may be an impossible thing to do and have a legitimately playable Commander deck. But with Lutri, it's as if there's no text on the card.
Right. I mean, it's true. That's very true, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it begs a very important question that you have to answer to yourself first. Like, you have to decide this first. You have to say, am I okay with the companion mechanic in Commander?
Sure.
Like, you have to answer that question first before you debate Lutri. Like, do I support companion in Commander? If the answer is yes, great. We can continue and talk about Lutri. If it's no sense in talking about Lutri, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, you won't support them no matter what their deck building restriction is. So let's assume everybody says, yes, Companion is really cool and it would be awesome in Commander. I'm going to assume that's how the Command Zone podcast feels. I'm going to assume that's how they feel about it. Now let's focus on Lutri. So yes, Lutri has a basically non-existent deck building criteria for Commander.
Yep.
Great. Like, now think about it this way. What if this new card right here that was just spoiled, the Fox, the Elemental Fox, everybody's just like, yeah, you know what? I could just run cards that have activated abilities because it's so worth it in my deck design to have an infinite combo if I draw one of these cards.
Oh yeah.
That I'm just gonna build I'm gonna build all of my all the cards in my deck to have activated abilities. Like, why not? Yeah, sure. It requires a little bit of change in the format. Like, that's great. Now think of it as in the bigger picture in general. People are switching their decks to have activated abilities, right? So what are they running less of? Likely instants and sorceries. Or I don't know. That might not be a fair argument. Maybe they still are, but like, they're changing the style of how they're playing. They're changing their style. So now you have this Lutri card that might be over here in this command zone.
Hold on a second.
Yep.
Each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say non-land.
Yeah, all lands have an activated ability.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm numb. Continue.
But yeah, so basically they're not, they're kind of switching their deck around a little bit because of this companion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so now you're changing the way this deck is working because of a new card that you're always going to have in.
Correct.
So, okay,
but is it going to change every Boros deck?
It might not. However, think of it this way. That, I think, negates the Lutri argument. The fact that there are other cards that provide an incentive to change your deck and have them as your companion makes it so that Lutri isn't necessarily broken, and it isn't necessarily a huge advantage over cards like this. Like, so for example, someone switches their deck around and they're like, that's great, because as soon as I draw one of these cards, I know that Zerta over here will give me infinite mana, and then I'll use that to cast my commander and do this with my commander. So now it's like, okay, that's great that you have Lutri over there. You better stop what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? Because if you don't, your extra card, your 9th card that you have in your hand doesn't mean shit. Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of come from the camp of, like, there are going to be other companion cards if this catches on, and for whatever reason, Lutri is desirable by everybody that runs a blue-red deck in Commander, then they're going to do one of two things, right? They're either going to reprint Lutri a bunch of times, or they're just going to print more companions that have very little restrictions on their deck design or that play right into Commander. So my whole theory on it, after listening, this is my conclusion that I came to after listening to the Command Zone. I said, the problem with the argument put forth on the Command Zone of this just sort of adding a curveball out of nowhere to MTG Commander, my whole stance on this is, the problem with that realm of thinking is that it stifles creativity in Magic at Wizards of the Coast and at new game mechanics and designs that come out. So I'm just saying there's a problem with that way of thinking that says, oh, this is a curveball out of nowhere, we got to ban it. It's like, no, you should really let it play out and, let it go where it may. If for whatever reason there's some combo that we're not thinking of with Lutri where it's just so broken and unfair that they're just like, yep, they always have this guy right here to copy this one spell, and then they just instantly win. Okay, then ban Lutri. Then at that point, ban Lutri. Or the spell that they're copying. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? But the problem with instantly saying, oh, that's too easy to be in the companion zone, we got to ban it, is just, it's a really flawed way of thinking. Like,
I feel good knowing that anytime that we sit down to play a game of Commander, I will reach into the back of my stack of tokens and pull out my Lutri and say, "Hey, Mike, I'm going to play with Lutri as my companion."
I'll be like, "That's great, man. I'm just gonna crack you in the face with cats, and I hope your Lutri,
you bastard.
your Lutri is gonna be a 3/2 blocker on, on turn 3."
So there are a couple of cards that I definitely wanted to talk about. One that I think is just, this sounds weird to me this week. I don't know what it is, but we'll be okay.
In your microphone, you mean?
Yeah, my mic sounds weird to me for some reason.
You sound okay in my headphones, if it makes a difference.
I bet I figured it out. There we go.
What was it?
Yeah, they don't want to hear about this. So there is something called an Oozolith. Have you seen this card, dude?
Maybe. What is it?
This card is right up your alley. This is a colorless card. It is a legendary artifact for 1 mana. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Oozolith. I keep saying Oozolith because I want it to be about oozes.
Yeah, you confused me there for a minute.
At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Oozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Oozolith onto target creature.
This card is so busted. First of all, it's the Oozolith, all right, because it's like the Wizard of Oz. Look at this card. This is definitely the Wizard of Oz right here.
That's what you're saying?
That's what I'm seeing, man. It's like the guy behind the curtain. It's like, well, not the guy behind the curtain. It is the curtain, right? It's like that big, majestic projection, right? This card is so nasty, dude. What did you like about this card? Like when you first saw it, I remember you sharing it with me and everything.
It's just playing around with counters is a dangerous and fun game, which I would imagine that you would appreciate. Walking Ballista, we've talked about so many times in this podcast, is one of our favorite creatures ever. One of the cool things is this is sort of like a hedge or a bank against control. If you were playing something like a Hardened Scales deck where all of your creatures are going to have counters and you're playing against control or a removal heavy deck, this might get hit by a Kolaghan's Command, but you can't play around everything. But if you play out a creature and then another creature and then this when you have a spare mana laying around and they wrath your board and you move 6 1/1 counters onto this, the next turn you dump all of your mana into another Ballista.
Or you just run Inkmoth Nexus, right? Because it doesn't say at the beginning of your upkeep. It doesn't say, this is very, very clutch. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn. So you just have manlands. Just run a bunch of dudes with counters and have manlands.
Oh my god.
Yep. So then just be like, you want to wrath the board? You're going to get cracked with an Inkmoth for lethal when you do.
The other thing you can do is with 4 mana Karn, make this into a creature.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Or you could, make your Paradox Engine into a creature. Wow. Go to combat, put all the counters on it. Now this.
Oh my god! I just thought of something. Oh my god! I just thought of something. This blows my mind.
And this gets all types of counters.
Yes.
So in the new set, you have trample counters and flying counters and menace counters.
You know what else you have?
What?
And I did not think of this. I just read the bottom part of this card, okay? And I was like, oh my god, this is a thing. You know what else you have in Modern?
What?
Vanishing counters.
Oh, yeah.
You have vanishing counters that say when you remove the last one, sack this.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to look that up, because if that works, this gets insane. So you run like the Marauder guy, the 3/3 for 2 that comes in with a vanishing counter, and then when you remove it and he dies, you put the vanishing counter on the Oozolith, and then go to combat and put the vanishing counter on one of their creatures.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Right?
That is interesting.
Does that work?
You can also put -1/-1 counters on this.
Yeah.
And then, so say you were playing there was a whole bunch of -1/-1 counter creatures in Amonkhet, Kaladesh block, like the Amonkhet Hour Devastation stuff, where you would get an undercosted creature that would be like a 5/5 that comes in with so many -1/-1 counters on it. You can put the -1/-1 counters on this, and then you read the last line. The last line is, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if this has any counters on it, you can move all of those counters onto target creature. It does not say creature you control.
Not just yours, your opponent's. That's so nuts.
Yeah.
That is so nuts, man. Yeah, I'm curious about that vanishing thing, because I'm wondering if the creature actually has to have vanishing for it to take effect and mean anything, or what have you. But, dude, this is just so cool on so many levels. Like, I was so happy when you shared this with me, because I did play Scales for the longest time. And you want to know one of the coolest things about the card Hardened Scales is it does not care what type of card or what type of permanent is getting 1/1 counters. It just cares that they are 1/1 counters. So for example, when you have a Hardened Scales on the board and then you drop in the Graftland, the Graftland comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters, because Hardened Scales does not say on a creature you control. It says if a +1/+1 would be placed on a permanent you control. So instantly that comes in with 2 +1/+1 counters. So when you have Hardened Scales and the Ozolith on the board, and you sack a worker to Arcbound Ravager, the Ozolith gets 2 +1/+1 counters.
Then you go to combat.
Then 3 +1/+1 counters
when you move
on. Right, and plus the modular counters that went on because of modular. So this is it, like double works modular.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Hardened Scales out in modular, you're getting 3 counters, or let's see. So you would get 1 +1 put on here, and then that many +1 more to move it back.
So you turn that 1/1 worker into basically 5 counters with a Hardened Scales. So you have the 1/1 for 1, and then if you have the Ozolith and Hardened Scales, that 1 counter turns into 5. So let's say you just had a Memnite on the board or something, and turn 2, you have all of this going on, and you sack, or I don't know, you would need a sack outlet, I guess, but like somehow this creature leaves the battlefield, right? Dies. Your modular trigger would happen, right? Let's forget about the Ozolith for a minute. Your modular trigger would happen. So the 1/1 counter would go on to Memnite. Hardened Scales would make it 2 +1/+1 counters. And then the counter, the 1 counter would go on the Ozolith. Hardened Scale would make that 2. When you go to combat, you can put those 2 counters on your Memnite, and Hardened Scales makes it 3. Yep. So
gross.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts, dude.
I don't know what this thing is pre-ordering for, but it's probably not enough.
One of my favorite cards so far, spoiled, if not my most favorite. So cool.
If you open any of these, don't trade them.
Nope. There's so many possibilities for this card. I don't think we can even comprehend all of the crazy shit you can do with it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, as you can see, I get freaked out just thinking of the potential possibilities this card has. Don't get rid of them. Like, if you crack this, don't get rid of them. Like, this is a really cool card, man. And if they're pre-ordering at, like, you know, $2-3 each, dude, pick them up, man. Why not?
So you know what else is just an absolutely ridiculous card that will be a commander all-star in certain archetypes and may come into modern or pioneer?
Is it the one you have on the screen right now?
It is. Why don't you read this? Because I'm going to look something up on the other screen.
Wow. Yep. Okay, so I was just reading this as Brad was talking. He's talking about Bastion of Remembrance, and it is a 3-drop enchantment, 2 and 1 black. Enchantment. This is when it comes into play, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So you get a 1/1 human. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Very interesting.
So I was listening to somebody else talk about this, and as far as we could figure, this is the only non-creature Blood Artist that works exactly like Blood Artist and you get a 1/1. So it costs 1 more, but it doesn't die to a board wipe. It doesn't die to any creature removal. And so for aristocrats type strategies, this is another blood artist that is harder to interact with.
Wow, yeah.
I would not overlook this card. This is a card, again, I know we're going to have a hard time getting our hands on paper product for this stuff, but if you're going to open up a box or two, I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I would hold on to Bastion of Remembrance because this card will see play. This could be one of those $6, $8 uncommons.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that printed at the uncommon slot over here. That's pretty solid. Just like it's Faithful Companion Blood Artist. It's comparison card Blood Artist printed right at the uncommon spot. That is really interesting, man. So, okay, this might be my ignorance, but can you explain to me why Blood Artist is good in Commander? Because I don't see it much.
Well, you'd have to have an Aristocrats deck that is playing all the Blood Artist effects. I'm not saying that it's very popular, but it may be because there aren't enough of those effects. So you've got Blood Artist and you've got Zulaport Cutthroat.
Yeah.
And you've got, let's see, Cruel Celebrant. We're looking at him right here.
Oh, yeah.
Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat,
Cruel Celebrant.
Cruel Celebrant.
Or another creature or planeswalker you control dies. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Wow.
And then you've got, so in black-white, Aelia Eternal Pilgrim, which is spicy. It is a 2/3 for black-white, legendary creature, core cleric. Aelia Eternal Pilgrim is a legendary death touch. 1 mana, sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to its toughness. 1 white, black, sack another creature. Exile target non-land permanent. Activate this only if you have at least 10 more life than your starting life total. So in a deck like this, that's all about, this is going to have your Sanguine Bond bullshit combos.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just all about, I'm going to make a bunch of tokens and sacrifice them.
Yeah. Dude, you know what that's a really good point, too. You know what that kind of plays in with, too? Which is also a new card that's being printed right now.
What's that?
The Moth. Mothman.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Dude, okay, so I'm not sure if you guys knew about this. You might have heard about this, but Mothman is busted, right? And here's why it's busted. I don't think they thought about this when they printed Mothman or Luminous Broodmoth, right? It has blatant disregard for other abilities that have been printed in the past, such as Persist and Undying. So let me explain this. I had to think a bit to wrap my head around this, but this definitely works. So listen here. You have 1 card, a sack outlet. Your second card, the Brood Moth, Mothman. And then you have any card with Undying or Persist.
Okay.
Sack outlet, Mothman, Persist, right? Let's say Kitchen Finks, for example. So I sack it with my sack outlet, with my Viscera Seer, let's say. I sack Kitchen Finks. Goes to the grave, and 2 triggers happen at the same time. And they are both my triggers, so I can now choose what order they happen in. So I can choose to either return him to the battlefield with a flying counter, or persist him into play with his own ability, right? So what you can do is you can let him persist back into play with his own ability before he gets the flying counter, right? And then when he comes back into play, sack him again and stack your counters the other way so that he gets brought back into play with a flying counter.
So you can do it twice for each creature.
You can just do it infinitely for each creature, infinitely. So
okay. I know that a lot of people are talking about this with Solemnity.
Yeah, that also works, but it also works with any sack outlet and like a persist or Undying. It just all depends on it's like I said, it kind of broke me for a minute. I had to think about it. I'm like, no, because I thought like as soon as you sacked the Kitchen Finks, let's say, it would instantly, the trigger would go off to return it to the battlefield, and that's there. But also, the Brood Mother says, Whenever, or brood moth, whenever creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter. So 2 things happen there, right? And you can stack those triggers in whichever way you want. So I believe the -1/-1 counter with persist goes on no matter what. I'm pretty sure that goes on no matter what, because this is return it to the battlefield. I think the way that it works is if it comes back onto the battlefield, it gets a -1/-1 counter. But the way that you can stack them is you can put that on top of the brood moth trigger. So that goes off first, and the creature gets returned to the battlefield, right? Now, Luminous Brood Moth's ability is still on the stack, and the card is no longer in your graveyard. So it does not happen. It fizzles, right?
Judge.
Yep. So then it's back into play with a -1/-1 counter. You sack it, right? Persist trigger does not go off because it had a -1/-1. But Luminous Brood Moth's ability says, hey, it didn't have flying, though. So let's bring it back with flying. So it comes back with flying, right? So now her ability won't trigger. So you sack it, and then it will persist and bring itself back without flying. And then you sack again, and Brood Moth's ability takes it back into play without a +1/+1 counter, or -1/-1 counter. So infinitely, it just keeps going off.
I don't know. I understand the logic behind how you're explaining this. The only thing, and don't take this the wrong way, but when I watch, literally hundreds of people on Reddit getting a hard-on for Solemnity as being the way to make this work, I'm thinking that it's not that simple.
It definitely is that simple. Can confirm it works that way. Like and I shouldn't say it's that simple. That's not simple. You have to really think about that and be like, okay, so you have 2 things going on here at once. You can stack them however you want the first way.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's something that we're missing. Like, so there's a trigger that when it dies, X happens.
Right.
But when it returns to the battlefield, I think at that point that it returns to the battlefield, I don't think that there are 2 separate triggers. I think that maybe it's a layers thing or a timing thing. I don't know. I will defer to your judgment for now, but I would say any of you that have an opinion on this, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Yeah. We really appreciate the comments, by the way.
So the question is, does it work like this, where if you have a persist guy, a sack outlet, and Luminous Broodmoth, 2 triggers go on the stack at the same time, and you choose basically which one brings it back? If it works like that, we're golden. That's exactly how it works.
Hey, you know what? They didn't ban this one preemptively.
Yeah, I know, right? This is a harder one to think about right here. You really got to take time and wrap your head around how that one was working. Solemnity is only being talked about because it's easier to think about. Like, it's easier to be like, oh, they can't get counters, so I can keep bringing it back. Yeah, of course. But what about abilities that they didn't pay attention to when they printed this card that, caused 2 triggers to happen at once and, lead to some very interesting decisions you can make in Magic?
Last preview card that I want to talk about today. Drath Magistrate. He's a human. K-Flag and I talked about this guy a little bit. Maybe in certain metas he could be a sideboard card. He may be a strong card in a Pioneer humans. But this is a 1 and a white, 1/3 creature human wizard. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. In Standard, this guy shuts down Escape.
Oh, man.
In Pioneer and Commander, he shuts down, I guess, oh no, I don't think that's in Standard now, but he shuts off your Mystic Forge.
Yep.
Shuts off the, what's the red Mystic Forge that lets red players play cards off the top of their library?
Experimental Frenzy.
Shuts off Experimental Frenzy. So you look at this and you immediately think, okay, I can't flashback. I can't use a Snapcaster Mage. I can't use anything with flashback in a graveyard.
God, that's so cool.
And yes, you can, dredge players can still dredge, but the players that are playing, say, Bloodgas, can't cast Bloodgas from the graveyard to bring stuff
Or you
back.
mean Gravecrawler.
Gravecrawler, yeah.
Yep.
So So I think that this card has some hidden text on it.
Well, you can't cast Conflagrate in Dredge because that's a flashback ability.
It is.
And that's one of the heaviest hitting cards in that deck. Wow, man.
It's a 1/3, you know, and again, in standard, really hard to kill. You can't shock it. You need something a little more potent to get it off the battlefield. You know, in Pioneer, something like this with Athalia's Lieutenant. Okay, now I've got a 2/4.
God damn. You know what's also really cool about this?
What?
It's a human.
Yeah.
It's a human, dude. So I can see this being a sideboard card in humans in Modern. Just because of Euro being a thing now. Euro is frigging huge in Modern.
And Croxa too. Croxa Gem is a thing.
Absolutely. Like, and you know what else? There's just Snapcaster mages. There's flashback cards all over the place. Like there's Cascade. There's Bloodbraid Elf. Like, you know, cascading stuff stops that too.
Can't cascade. Oh man.
Yep. Yeah, it's so good, man.
Gonna break this out against your Maelstrom Wanderer deck.
Can you imagine? Oh yeah, exactly, man. So you have your Violon too with humans, and then someone's like Snapcaster Mage. You're just like, yep, target, and then they go and target something, and you're like, yeah, by the way, Violin Drath Magistrate.
All right, we've got a couple of minutes left here. I want to give a shout out to one of our most loyal listeners.
Who is it?
Kenny Merrill.
Kenny Merrill.
Kenny reached out to me, and I don't know if he heard us last week when we were talking about how important of a returning mechanic cycling is. Do you remember having that conversation?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, we have 1 mana cyclers, 1 mana colorless cyclers in this set.
Did he tell you to pick this card that you've brought up?
He said, snap this shit up.
Yup. Kenny, good pick.
Living End. There's only 1 printing of it.
Wow. Wow, man.
Right now, you can get copies between $5 and $6. I don't know that I'm ever going to be interested in playing a Living End deck, but whenever they bring a mechanic back like this, you see a resurgence of a deck archetype, and that's going to. We've had this conversation before. The older card, the card that is lower supply, is going to go up. If you're doing this to just have a bet, make a buck, and have some fun, I would think that just having cycling back in the format, if we're playing Paper Magic again in 6 months, this card will double.
Oh, for sure. Right now, this is you can get them between $5 and $6. I'm seeing some even here at $4.80. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 99% shipping, I guess. But like, so between $5 and $6, it wasn't long ago. This was a $30 card. Yeah. Like it was not very long ago. This was $30. And this is also a great pick, Kenny, for a totally different reason, right? You're right that cycling is coming back and it's really huge and it's going to really pay off with some of these new creatures being printed. But they also are printing a new card that Saffron Olive has already mentioned is probably going to make Living End decks a lot better. And it's this card called Unpredictable Cyclone. So the reason this is cool and makes these sort of Living End decks resilient is because it's a whole new way to,
cycle a creature, put a creature onto the battlefield.
Exactly. Like it's so when you do Living End in game 1 and you're just like, bam, cycle all my dudes, Living End, they're like, oh shit, I gotta nuke the graveyard. I gotta get a rest in peace or whatnot. And then game 2, you just slam Unpredictable Cyclone, which I'll explain to you here in a minute. Suddenly the graveyard doesn't matter anymore. You're cycling dudes and getting dudes. So this is what Unpredictable Cyclone says. It's such a breakable card, man. It's so breakable. It's 5 mana, right? So it's a little steep for Modern, but when you're running cards that play with it very well, and especially if you're running against a slower deck that's trying to slow you down, this is so good. So this is what it does. 5 mana enchantment for 2 red, 3 colorless, and it says this. If a cycling ability or another non-land card would cause you to draw a card, instead, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a card that shares a card type with the cycled card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost.
then put all the other exiled cards in the bottom of your library in a random order. I think I read the first part of that wrong. So if a cycling ability of another non-land card would cause you to draw a card. So if you cycle something,
You're going to draw a card.
you're going to draw a card. So if it would cause you to draw a card, instead reveal cards. Like it's like doing, you guys ever played Oath of Druids in Commander? Like where you're just revealing cards from the top of your library until you hit a creature? Like that's exactly what it is. So you cycle off from, you know, one of your cycling creatures in Living End, and sure enough, you're going to hit another creature that you would have cycled into the grave and cheated in anyway. And bam, there he is. Cast him for free.
And gets around rest in peace.
Yep, bam, gets around rest in peace, gets around all the graveyard hate. Yeah, it's pretty dope,
I
man.
like it.
Yep.
And it cycles for 2 itself. So, worst case scenario, you're drawing into something else. Like it functions so well in this.
Well, no. Worst case scenario, you have one of these out, and you
then
have another one, and you get 2 of them out.
You get 2 triggers.
And you get 2 triggers every time you cycle something.
Okay, let's slow down. Let's slow down. So I would say, great call, Kenny. If you want to play, for listeners that want to play the MTG Finance game, snap this shit up for the rest of you.
Good call.
You know, if you're ever thinking about playing this card, now is probably the time. I have a couple of other sort of long shot snap this ups. I say long shot, but Aether Vial is under $20 right now. You can get an Iconic Masters Aether Vial for between $16 and $17. I think if you went on eBay or a Facebook group, you could probably get them for $15 a piece.
Wow.
If you can get a play set of Aether Vials for $60 or $70, man, is that a good card.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't know, perhaps I've just been playing Aether Vial decks for so long. I just think it's one of the more powerful cards in creature-based Magic that if you're a long-time committed Modern player, it's worth having.
It's a very good card. It breaks your conventional ways of thinking how you're going to deal with creature decks. It takes that and breaks it in half. So it's so good on a lot of levels, man. I agree. It's probably one of the best cards in any creature-based deck that you can have. Yeah, wow. And
it's just so cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me seems so cheap from what we've seen it in the past.
And again, this used to be a $40, $45 card. There was a point in time where it was $40, $45 for a vial.
Even more.
Yep.
You know what else used to be like $30?
Oh yeah.
Ancestral Vision. That's down to like that's damage. Let's see. You can get light played copies and near mint copies around $350.
Wow.
It's just another one of those cards that like not a lot of people are playing it, but every once in a while this card just pops off. And because of price memory, if somebody comes out with another one of these play your free spells for free decks that actually pops, this will be a $12 card overnight.
Oh yeah.
So this is just one that I was looking at that I think is at a noteworthy low point. Now, granted, if we're all locked in our houses for 6 months and nobody's still playing paper Magic in October, maybe you'll get these for $2, and I will have cost you $6 on your play set. In which case, don't bill me. I won't be able to afford it because if this shit goes on that long, I'll probably be unemployed too. But I've been looking at Eternal Masters, Iconic Masters, and Masters 25. Those sets are getting to be 3, 4, and 5 years old. The supply on those is getting limited. Any of these cards that have seen play in Modern in the past are going to come up again. The other one, and if for some reason I ended up with all A's: Aether Vial, Ancestral Vision, and Ancient Tomb.
Ooh.
Which is under $25 right now.
Interesting.
And that is at an all-time low, but it hasn't moved a lot since the printing.
All-time low? No. You're talking to an OG, bro.
Yeah, okay.
I picked up a play set of these $5 each back in the day.
Yeah.
That's all-time low, bro.
That's okay. Since the inception of the Modern format, Wrong search window. 'Cause-
Yeah, we're looking up Ancient Tomb, Ultimate Masters.
No, that's funny. Okay, so I'm totally wrong. When that came out, it's actually when that came out in Ultimate Masters, it was like down to $10. Now it's up to $30. So how about this? It ain't gonna get cheaper. And I was looking at copies for sale on TCG Player around $23 earlier today. $26.
Yeah, I see this going on. $26, 27.
And they go up pretty quick. Like if we go to page 2, it's up to 30. If we go up to page 3,
31.50. Yep.
32. So if you ever wanted Ancient Tombs and you missed out when they were reprinted, they're not going to get any cheaper.
You don't think so? You don't think they'll ever reprint this again?
I don't think they have the reason to. Like, they printed it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When did they print it before that?
Well, it was originally printed in Tempest, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was, I'll tell you this. This is the OG in me talking, right? It was printed in Tempest, and it literally took 10 or 15 years for this card to even be played in anything that, you know, abused it. I mean, it took that long to...
You're not supporting me, man.
Like...
I don't know. Not feeling the love tonight.
No, I'm saying I
You're
love
supposed
you,
to be the guy that loves the legacy and vintage shit.
I do. I love this card. Don't get
Look
me
at
wrong.
me. I got a legacy card on my list.
I love it. I'm not gonna see. This is I love you and I disagree with you. That's it, because
Where's my cards?
When it got printed, it was just like you said. I remember it being like $10 each. Look what he just picked up, man. Can you guys read that? For those of you who are just listening on one of our podcast venues, he just picked up. He's flashing in front of the camera right now about
Dystopia.
20 dystopias that he bought.
That's how I feel right now. Like I'm living a dystopian nightmare.
No, look, I mean, I love you, Brad, and I disagree with you. Like, I just think that, like, it was, like you said, when it got printed, it was $10. Like, that blew my mind.
When it got reprinted, yes.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is insane. You know, at that point, I had 5 of them, so I was like, I'm just going to hold on to mine until they go up to about $30.
So you're going to pitch yours?
I think I already traded it to GB, my extra one. But I'm going to hold on to my 4 because they're from Tempest. There's 3 from Tempest because I love to tilt, and there's the other one from the Vault because it was...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, the From the Vault lands, I believe, or whatever it was, realms. Yep. So, yeah, they've printed it a couple times. It was From the Vault. It was Ultimate Masters. There was a Zendikar Expedition. Not like that even counts, but like, yeah, and then originally Tempest. Yep. So, I mean, it could happen again, man. Like, I think it was at about $30 before it got reprinted. Like,
back there now?
Yep, and now it's back. It's back there now. So, like,
you know what else is
with more copies on the market?
Noble Hierarch. Back again.
Really?
I mean, this is another one that right now you can get a play set for under $100.
Wow. I never thought I'd see the day.
They finally printed this goddamn thing as much as a Tarmogoyf, but it's just too good a card to be $20 a piece.
Yeah. God, man.
So what anything you're thinking about this week?
For cards to snap up, let me see, dude. I'm trying to think of the ones that I might have snapped up recently, and I can't think of any that I've purchased in bulk recently. All because it's
not the time to do it.
Yeah, it's not really the time to do it. But I've always been looking. You know what I mean? And now there are some, and now I'm just forgetting that I've bought recently that I've just been like, hey, look, this is something to at least have. One of them that I bought was, by the way, if you want to invest in cool stuff, right? It's a common, right? This is one of the ones that I bought. This is mainly for my girlfriend for her cat deck, but I was surprised that this was so cheap. It was the Lost Leonin. It's called Lost Leonin. Buy a foil. You definitely want to buy the foils because it's a common, right? This card is a cat, right? It's a cat for 2 mana. It's a 2/1 and has infect. Like,
oh God.
So now think of Arahbo. Remember we were talking Arahbo, doing this cool shit to your cats every turn, right?
It's a 2/1 and gets
It's a
plus
5/4.
So it's a 5/4 with infect on turn 3. So crack you once, crack you again, you're dead. This card is sick. And
Do you
with
play?
all
No, you wouldn't. Never mind.
what?
I was thinking about resurrection. Like I was trying to think about what the white rebirths are. Like to just, oh, you didn't like this guy? You killed him? Let me just bring him back.
Return to the ranks is another one.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And that's right. Fits right into white too. We also run Berserk in that deck, so you could technically turn 3 kill your opponent with this guy in Arahbo. Just turn 2, Lost Leon, and turn 3, pump Berserk, dead.
Asshole.
So with the only reason I mention that is because that is one of the ones that I remember getting recently because of all of this new focus on cats. I'm like, it's only a matter of time before someone realizes how friggin' nasty Arahbo is. And they start buying Arahbos. And guess what card is really nasty in Arahbo? Lost Leonin. Like, we didn't have this in our deck for a while. I was like, I don't know why we don't have this. We should probably buy
Nobody likes infect.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. You don't like it, but you got to eat it. You don't like it, but you got to eat it.
Like Brussels sprouts when you're a kid. I love Brussels sprouts now. Yeah, I'll be straight. I haven't ordered anything from TCG Play or anybody online since those dystopias, which what was the shipping date on that? March 30th. So, and not that it sounds like a big deal, but for me to go a week without ordering Magic cards. Now, what I will say is I have worked to try and support our LGS by ordering product of Ikoria, the new Commander Precon product, and the our LGS Game Citadel is offering a sale on the Challenger decks, where you can get all 4 Challenger decks for $80.
Oh, wow.
So they're $20 a piece.
Oh, wow.
Playable, out of the box standard decks. We know that there's probably $40 worth of easily pickable cards in there to start off with.
That's GameCitadel.com. Is that where they're at? And then if you just search Game Citadel Bangor on Google, that's always how I get there, and their website pops up. Yep. But yeah, man, that's a good deal.
He had a deal on all 5 of the new Commander decks, but I think he might be sold out now.
Oh man, I bet. Especially if it was anything like that last one, like $20 a pop.
Not on the Commander decks.
Oh man.
But
yep.
I think it was $150 for the set of Commander decks,
which ain't bad, especially with the power level that they're sneaking and leaking over here.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So you've been listening to the Snapcast podcast with Mike Cooley. I'm Brad O'Brien. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. We love to hear from you in the comments. We really appreciate interacting with you guys as much as possible. Feel free to chime in on how you think that brood mother interaction goes. And I would love to do sign-offs every week with really unique card interactions. So if there's some of those that you can think of, feel free to drop those in the comments as well, or to message me on Facebook or Twitter. And
we might leak yours right into the end of an episode.
I'll give credit where credit is due. You ready to jam out?
Let's do it.